All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Makabadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessing salutations to the hopeful lake out there pushing this word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners who may have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And what I want to get into this morning, okay, dealing with the cutting asunder of the times, okay, because we come into the time where the Lord is finna divide the ages, okay, because right now we're in the age of Esau Edom, okay, and he's the last heathen that's gonna ever rule the earth, okay, before it's passed on to the rightful rulers, which are the sons of God, okay, beginning with Yahushua, okay, and the nation of Israel is going to be their ruling class family of men, women, and children in the earth forever, okay. It's going to be fulfillment of all the promises made to our forefathers. The promise that was made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all right, and the promise that was made to King David about he should always have a king, a son that sit his throne, okay, was that fulfilled in Yahweh Shai. He's going to always have someone of his seed, okay, to sit on his throne, which that's Yahweh Shai. He's going to fulfill that promise, okay. All the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, King David, all this going to be fulfilled in Yahweh Shai, okay, at his second coming. And he's the one that's going to divide, all right, and cut asunder the times. You see? Because when you go into 2nd Ezra 6, and we want to get it, because this war, which is going to usher in Yahweh Shai, this is that divide and asunder. It says, 2nd Ezra 6 and 7 says, Then answered I and said, What shall be the part and asunder of the times, or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth, man? The end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth. You see? So the first is Esau. Esau rulership came out first. Just let's go into the actual birth of Jacob and Esau. Esau rulership came out first. And then what Jacob came after, it symbolized Esau's rulership would be birthed in the earth first. All right, hence the Renaissance. But that's when he came into the fulfillment of his blessing. Okay? And Jacob's rulership, which is the one that's getting ready to come to pass now at the return of Yahweh, came out after, man. Our rulership is going to be born after Esau rulership. All right? And our rulership has no end. That's why nothing came after Jacob. Because Jacob represents, all right, an everlasting rulership. Okay? And what's going to be the cut and asunder, or the part and asunder of times, because you go into the word asunder. Okay, what's going to separate the time of these heathens, the end of these heathens' rulership and the beginning of Jacob's? Well, when you go to all right, when you go to this word asunder, just a quick Google lookup of the word asunder. Okay, so you go into an asunder. It says asunder is an adverb meaning into separate parts, pieces, or far apart, often used, okay, in literary context to describe a violent breaking or tearing. It signifies being divided, separated, or rent in two, such as the phrase torn asunder. Okay? You see that? So it signifies being divided or separated. It describes a violent breaking, man. And what's going to be the violent breaking, okay? What's going to cut asunder these times, these ages, man? It's going to be war. That's why the Lord has started this war. These nations, all right, have begun, okay, a world war. Okay, the Lord caused Esau to start a world war because that's going to be the divide and asunder of times. That's what's going to cut the times asunder. It's going to be a violent breaking or a tearing. The kingdom is going to be torn away from Esau through war. Okay? So as it said, through violence, man. That's why this is the coming asunder of times, man. The cutting asunder of times. Okay? Let's read this in, all right, and show you it's going to be with violence, man. This is the book of 2nd Ezra 6 and 7. Then I asked, how long a period of time will divide the ages? When will the first age end and the next age begin? And the first age represents Esau, man, his rulership. He came into the blessing given to him by Isaac, the fatness of the earth, and he has, all right, maintained it with the sword, at constant war. Okay, but that same sword, all right, which is now the nuclear missiles, is going to finish this man's age. It's going to cut asunder this man's age with great violence, man. It's a very violent weapon, man, them nukes. Okay, it's a very violent weapon, all right, that the Lord had these devils to create. Okay, and it was for the purpose of what? Cutting asunder, to violently break and tear away at this age, man. To divide this age from the age of Jacob. Okay? And it said the next age to begin. He answered, the interval will be no longer than between Abraham and Abraham, showing it's going to be in one lifetime. The Lord's going to do this cutting asunder in one lifetime. It's not going to take age. No, it's going to be a quick cut. America will be destroyed in an hour, man. Okay? As Yahushua says, he beheld Satan fall like lightning. Okay? Which is Esau, man. Fall from his rulership. Fall from heaven like lightning. That's Esau falling from his rulership, man. The children of Satan. It's going to be a quick cutting asunder, man. Okay? And it says, he was the grandfather of both Jacob and Esau. And when they were born, Jacob was holding Esau's heel. Yeah. Symbolic of Esau's, the end of Esau's, the beginning of Jacob's power. Your hand goes into your power. Okay? So Jacob's hand holding Esau's heels, hey, that's our power. Okay? Being born as Esau's power is ending. You see? So we at the end, we at the feet. You know, the feet of the statue, going back to Daniel, the 2nd chapter, those 10 toes. Okay, America, NATO, and the EU. In these days shall the Lord raise up a kingdom. In the days of these kings shall the Lord raise up a kingdom. You see? Because that's the cutting asunder of times. All right? It says Esau represents the end of this age, and Jacob represents the beginning of the new age. Jacob represents the beginning of a new age. Okay? So the new age is going to come through war. Let's get that real quick. All right? Because their stone, their smoke, or the feet of their statue or their stone was Yahushua, which what Yahushua represents Jacob. You see? So you go here to real quick, get to the point. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 2. Because the end of Esau's rulership will come through what this current beast system that runs the earth, America, NATO, and the EU. Okay? NATO looking weak as hell. Alright, EU looking weak as hell, and America just out there by themselves, and they finna get their work. They're getting their work. That's already begun. Okay, Yahushua just come to finalize amongst all these nations, man. Daniel 2 and 44. It says, and in the days of these kings, we in the time of these kings. These kings are, all right, these Edomites that's ruling this beast system, man. America, NATO, and the EU, this has been the dominant government of the world. These Western governments have dominated the world. Okay? They make up these 10 toes. All right? It says, in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So the kingdom of Israel, okay, with Yahushua, he's going to usher that kingdom in. It's going to break in pieces and consume these kingdoms. Okay? So this is what we're getting ready to see, man. The Lord, Yahushua, is going to be sent back to consume the kingdoms of the world. Okay? To take the authority from all these different governments of the world. That's going to divide. It's going to be with violence. He's going to tear the kingdom from them. He's going to cut asunder. Okay? It's going to be a violent breaking. You see? And it's a kingdom that what should never be destroyed. Okay, never left the other people, another nation. That's why nothing came out to Jacob. Nothing was joined to Jacob. It's Jacob ruling, all right, on his own. Israel shall dwell in safety alone. Okay, let's go here. Because when you go to remember, asunder means to break or tear away violently, man. And the Lord's getting ready to violently tear away this man's kingdom. Okay? How does it describe Babylon's fall? Okay? This is Revelation 18:20 say, rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for the Most High have avenged you of her. You see that? The Lord's getting ready to avenge his people in the earth, man. All right, because these devils have went too far. Okay, and America has done the most, and that's why America is going to get the most judgment. Okay, it says, and a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall the great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more. And that's the cutting asunder of times. That's why the Lord has this war brewing, because he's finna cut asunder the times, man, the ages. He's finna violently end this age, and that's gonna mark the beginning of our age, man. Okay, that's why you go here, Daniel 7:18, real quick. All right, Daniel 7:18. All right, this is the book of Daniel, chapter 7, and verse 18 said, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever, man. So the saints shall what? Take the kingdom. Okay? Because remember, the Lord gonna raise his men up with power in these latter days, man. You know? How Shai coming back with all their power, man. The saints are finna take the kingdom. The kingdom is finna be ripped from Esau, violently taken from this man. Okay? Esau's getting ready to badly lose this war. Okay? Because ultimately, how Shai. Let's go here, Revelation 19 and 11. It says, and I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he doth judge and make war. In righteousness he doth judge and make war. Okay? So this is what we're getting ready to see. How Shai's finna come wage war in righteousness against these devils, man. Okay? Against these heathens, man. Okay? And violently take away the kingdom. Okay? Dividing the ages asunder, man. It's going to be through war. We in that time of the dividing of the ages, man. These are heavy times. Okay? So this is where we at. Okay? That's why you go here. We can end it here. We always get it. But this is playing out right now. Okay? Because Esdras was requiring, okay, what's gonna separate the ages? What's gonna be that event that's gonna separate, the end of these heathens being in power and the beginning of us being in power forever? Esdras was inquiring. Now we have the answer. Okay? It's gonna be this war. It's gonna be the return of Yahushua. Okay? Because this war is gonna usher in Yahushua on the scene. Okay? Revelation 11:14. The second woe was past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Okay? And it's this third world's war that's going to cut asunder the time. The first two wars, World War One and World War Two, that wasn't the cutting asunder of the times. But this third world's war that coming quickly, that's happening and is escalating quickly, man. Okay? That's going to divide and cut asunder the times forever, man. It's going to divide the ages. It says, and the seventh angel sounded, all right? And the seventh angel sounded, and there was great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world, this current age, okay, are become the kingdoms of our Lord. So in the war, the kingdom is going to be translated in war. That's when kingdoms are translated. Okay? The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his anointed, and he shall reign forever and ever. Okay? He shall reign forever and ever. You see? So this is where we at. All right? The cutting asunder of times, man. You know, it started. We here, man. Lord will. We endure. You know, may we be passed over. You know, as we know, all right, Yahweh Shai's coming with wrath and mercy. So may we fall into the Lord's mercy, you know, as the Lord translate the kingdom from one people to another, which is from Esau into Jacob, you know. So that's the point, Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you sisters edify once again. We give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the whole elect. Shalom.